All right, so you're all welcome to this 60 minutes webinar titled Navigating Labor Relations in the Canadian Ecosystem. And we're really just going to be talking about labor relations. It's really a very high level snippet of an 8-week program that will be launched in the new year. So we're literally just scratching the surface here. And just to give you a quick agenda for the 60 minutes, we'll start off with just a bit of introductions, which we've already started off with, and just kind of talk to you about why this webinar, who is it for, what you should expect at the end of the webinar. And then I will go ahead and introduce our two experts who will be we'll be having a conversation with them for about 25 minutes. Then after that, we'll do a little bit of a promotion about the 8-week program. And then we'll just sort of open up the floor for any questions you all have. Would love for you to use the time as you're listening to kind of think about any questions that are coming up for you. And you'll have the opportunity for the last 20 minutes to ask those questions. So that's just a quick agenda of our time together here. Okay, so there we go. So again, we'll just sort of welcome everybody. I will introduce myself. My name is Tomi Daramola, and I'm the host for this webinar. I am an HR professional, and my expertise is in the area of building capacity, all the D's in HR, so talent development, leadership development, organizational development. I'm very passionate about building capacity and culture transformation. I also do consulting on the side, so I work closely with non-for-profit organizations. I am joining you from Vancouver, BC, Canada. And so this webinar is also a learning session for me because I'm not an expert in labor relations, so I'm going to be learning alongside you in this session. So looking forward to that. So before we delve into this webinar, I just wanted to clarify a few things for you. So a few housekeeping rules and just give you an idea of who this webinar is for. Again, we welcome everybody regardless of your background, but ideally what we're hoping to focus on are new professionals, new HR professionals in the Canadian environment who would love to learn more about how to be an HR professional here in Canada. And we also welcome anyone who is really trying to consider a career in employee and labor relations. So if you're really new to HR and you're like looking into this area, would really love, we welcome you here today. And then anyone who is in a unionized environment, and which is very, very common here in Canada, a lot of organizations are unionized. So we'd really, if you're like interested in sort of mastering what it is to work in that kind of environment, you're totally welcome here. And then lastly, anyone who is an HR business partner and looking to sort of like deepen their skills and their versatility in labor relations, or sort of wanting to learn more about that. And so, yeah, so really everybody's welcome, but this is the people that we're focusing on. And even if this does not fall for you, you might know somebody who might be in any of these categories. So would really love for you to share the information you learned here today with them. So that's who it's for. And we're really hoping that at the end of this, there's a lot that you're going to learn and you'll be able to promote this program on our behalf. So just some housekeeping. Again, we've mentioned that this is going to be a recorded webinar, and we would really love for you to be here fully with us, be fully present, and turn off all distractions if possible. And again, for some people, the way they learn is to take notes. So if you're someone like me that loves to take notes, please do take all the notes you can. And lastly, we'll just ask that as you're listening into the conversation here, feel free to put in all your questions in the chat box. Again, we'll open up the last 20 minutes for any questions that you might have. So yeah, just feel free to do that, and we'll be able to sort of read through all the questions that people have and allow the experts to answer them. So that's some housekeeping rules. Nice. And yeah, so just to talk a little bit about what we're hoping that you'll get at the end of this 60 minutes with us. We want to, our conversation with the experts will really be around those myths that we want to bust about labor relations in Canada. We'll be talking about just having a conversation about 5 misconceptions, and we'll just use that opportunity to really help you understand why labor relations is an area that is it's something that, you know, it's available for any HR professional. It's not, you don't have to be an expert in that area. And so we'll be sort of having a conversation around that. And then secondly, we're hoping that at the end of this, you will get some strategies on how to be an expert in the field. We're going to be talking to some gurus in labor relations, so they will definitely be, giving you some strategies, and hopefully those will be some very practical ones that you can implement immediately after this 60 minutes webinar. And then thirdly, we hope that you'll be able to get an understanding of what it is to be an HR professional in the Canadian environment. And then lastly, as I said, this is really a snippet of an 8-week program, and we would love for you to be able to have an understanding of how we can support you as Luminous Consulting to be an expert here in Canada in labor relations. So those are the what we hope you'll get by the end of this webinar. I'm just going to pause and see if anyone has any questions before we delve right into this webinar. Feel free to put your question in the chat or a comment. Okay, so what I would love, it's a little quiet in here. Could I get some emojis from people to just let them know that they're here with me? Give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, give me something. Awesome, thank you. It feels a bit lonely in here, so thank you. Okay, so I am going to now introduce our speakers for today. We have 2 speakers. The first person is Imole Ashobon. These 2 guys are my buddies, so I'm just going to talk about them as my friends. So Imole is a guru, as I said. I'm sure he's going to be like, no, I'm not a guru, but you are. He's been in the HR field for a number of years. He's someone that I would say is very passionate about people. He's really passionate about empowering professionals in excelling in their careers. He's someone that is an expert, is a coach. He's worked in Fortune 500 companies. He has done everything to do with HR. And again, as I said, the reason why he's here is because he's been in unionized organizations, and he understands labor relations and how to work with unions, and he will be able to share a little bit more about that in a little bit. And our second speaker today is Leke. Leke, again, is another guru in this field. He's an HR leader. Leke has over 17 years experience in HR. He's worked in different industries, and he's currently working with the Port of Vancouver as an employee and labor relations manager. And he also teaches at Kwantlen Polytechnic University here in British Columbia. So I'm happy to welcome both of them. I will just give them.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me, Tommy?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here today to talk about employee and labor relations. Like Tommy said, I've spent some time, especially in the last 12 years in Canada, working in that space. And I've always advocated for HR professionals who are transitioning into Canada to build capacity in that area, not only because it is highly rewarding. Virtually every organization you work into in Canada would require a higher level of skill competencies in this area. Even when organizations are not unionized, you still sometimes stand at the risk of unions coming into that environment. So you need to understand who the unions are. And I do say this, that unions are not, you don't have to see unions as a body to fight with on the other end. If you look critically, most of the benefits we enjoy as employees in Canada, especially in North America, were advocated by the unions over many years. So it's important to know how to engage the union, to understand the structure, to understand the ongoing relationship, and also to be able to manage the conflicts that usually comes out of that relationship, which is always an ongoing one. So I know today we'll be talking about a couple of myths about working in a unionized environment. And when we get into those individual myths, we'll be able to provide more clarity and more, we narrow down on the why. Why do you really need employer and labor relations skills and competencies as an HR professional? I think that will become more apparent as we continue the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Leke. Imola, are you good now?
I think I'm improvising. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. For some reason, I don't know, I had to just click him. Well, sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah.
So we'll give you just about 30 seconds so that we can.
Okay. So pretty much you talked about me. I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about HR. I'm passionate about empowering. And I've been in HR now for over 14 years. And so working in a unionized environment is something that is so thrilling and exciting. And of course, we'll be diving into it, as Leke has said, and exploring the various dimensions and reasons why you should think of pivoting into labor relations. It's hot right now. So I see this to be a fun conversation. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So labor relations is hot right now. Okay. So I guess we're going to now use that opportunity to sort of get into this conversation. And we are going to be talking about 5 myths or misconceptions about labor relations in Canada. And this will be a conversation with the two experts here. And the first one, which is something that I am really curious to hear about, is extensive legal knowledge is a prerequisite to excel in labor relations. What is that about? I believe, Imole, are you able to sort of dive into this misconception?
Yes, I'll quickly dive into that. The straight answer is no. You don't need extensive legal background. I don't have a legal background, even though I've always wanted to be a lawyer. But many people I have worked with, in labor relations, don't even have HR education per se at the onset. I think the fundamental aspect that gives you leverage or enables you to work in labor relations is that desire, it's the passion, for labor relations. Labor relations is another layer to HR, managing people, managing conflicts, managing. So it's that desire. You really must have the capacity, the tenacity, and the desire to operate in that space. And of course, the education comes in, the knowledge, the training comes in. It's a specialized field. So the technical competencies you must have, to function there. So you don't need to have a legal background. If you have it, all good, but I don't have a legal background, and many people don't as well. So I think that's my straight answer to that.
Okay. And maybe I'd love to hear from Leke, who is actually a lawyer.
Yeah.
To sort of talk to us about, do you need a legal knowledge, or, how?
No, I absolutely, I would say no. But for me, having that legal background has kind of helped. I won't deny that. But having trained a lot of people in employer and labor relations, and having worked in different organizations, I reported to very senior VPs with extensive experience in labor relations. I can't recall any of my kind of past bosses who do have a background in law. But what is important is what Imola said. You have to have that desire. If you have the desire and you are able to, over the period of time, get a support in terms of some education, some exposure to the work itself, you quickly build those competencies. You can also, take advantage of the extensive network we have within a group as HR professionals in Canada to leverage on the experience of others, those who have worked in that space. And it's a continuous, it's one field of HR where you have to have continuous education. The laws are always changing. The regulations are always changing. Your ability to keep abreast and to keep in touch with this ever-changing, ever-dynamic legal landscape of employment law in Canada is what you need. And I know most of us have that desire. If we can put in that time, in no time you'll be speaking the language, and it will be very easy for the organization to spot that you actually have something to offer in that area.
Nice. You know what? I'm just realizing that we actually didn't really define what exactly do people who do labor relations, like what's a typical day for them? What do they do? Because I'm pretty sure most people here are in HR professions, but I'm not in labor relations, so I have no idea what you do. So maybe one of you could just give us like a quick high level view of what do people in labor relations do? Like, what's their role?
So I can approach the two areas. When we talk about employee relations, we're talking about managing all the legal and regulatory work that has to do with employees who are not in a unionized environment, who are what we call under the Employment Standard Act of different provinces in Canada, in terms of termination, in terms of recruitment, in terms of benefit. Employee relations deals with those areas that's outside of the collective agreement. But when you hear labor relations, you talk about the unions, everything related to the formation of the union, bargaining collective agreement, grievance management, arbitrations, negotiations, conciliations, mediations, anything that has to do with managing employees in a unionized environment, we talk about labor relations. Employee relations, employees are guided by their individual contract of employment, but in labor relations, employees are guided by their collective agreement negotiated on their behalf by their individual unions. But we can spend the whole week talking about the differences between these two and in some more depth as to how to manage relationships in those two different environments.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm just curious about like being in the Canadian environment, like what's the chance that someone would actually work in a unionized environment? You know, like how, I don't know if you know the statistics, or like what's the chance of that actually happening here?
Can you hear me?
You're echoing.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
All right. So apologies for that. I'm having some technical issues. What's the chances? So you have to look at it from a statistics angle. 30% of organizations in Canada are unionized. And we've seen the new trend that it is going up. This data is from 2022. We've seen the trends that is going up because of, you know, the AI and all the technological advancements. Fundamentally, people want protection on their jobs. They want representation. So if you say 30% of big organizations, main organizations are unionized, you want to do the maths. That means averagely 3 out of every 10, we can use it that way, 3 out of every 10 HR professionals have the opportunity to come into the unionized environment. And there's a high demand for professionals with union competence and experience. And I mean, I must say it's one of the highest paying dimensions or aspect of HR because it's quite technical. I mean, or the competencies are really different, and there's a high demand. If you can manage people, if you can manage tensions without contention, if you can manage processes, if you can manage the union, then of course you make your bosses happy, you make the organization happier. So there's a growing demand for HR professionals with union experience or union competencies.
Okay, thank you. So we'll sort of go into the next misconception here, and it says a focus on labor relations implies opposition to unions rather than fostering positive employee relations. We're going to bust that.
So I think I mentioned earlier the misconception with a lot of organizations and even with a lot of senior managers and leaders is that once the union comes into your workplace or you have that relationship with the union, it has to be an ongoing fisticuff and strive. But times have changed and times are changing. We're moving towards a more collaborative approach to union employee management. And that, of course, creates a lot of opportunities for growth in a whole lot of organizations. That has been particularly very useful, I think, during and post-COVID, when many organizations are having to face a difficulty either the union or management have had to deal with. So you have to sit with your union and work outside of your collective agreement to create solutions for your employees. For a lot of organizations who have not, prior to that time, built that relationship, it was very tough initially, right? And for organizations who are more forward-looking, it was very easy to create solutions that work for their employees. So like I said, times have changed. And as a labor relations specialist or as a labor relations manager, it's very important for you to build that relationship. I, for one, when I go into an organization, the first thing I do, aside just knowing what my mandate is in an organization, is to sit with all the leaders of the union. Let them know what my agenda is. Talk to them, understand what their challenges is over time. And when they see you sincere, when you're able to sustain that, it makes your life easy. You can get a termination done easily. You can negotiate outside of the collective agreement to have work done, to have flexibility around contractors or benefits and all and sundry. So the relationship doesn't have to be adversarial at all. In fact, the more adversarial the relationship is, the more difficult your job gets. And you can tell by the size of the collective agreement. If you walk into an organization and you see a collective agreement that is this big, it speaks volumes. The smaller the collective agreement, in my experience over 13 years in Canada, the likelihood that you're walking into a very collaborative environment. The bigger the collective agreement, the bigger the strife and the conflict over the period of time. So simple answer is it doesn't have to be adversarial.
Okay. Well, what I'm hearing is it's really about building that relationship and sort of getting that win-win situation where the organization is winning, the union is winning, in order to sort of foster that positive relationship. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add, Imole?
Yes. So one of the biggest wins I had last year was the negotiation of a 10 years contract deal, CBA that was hanging. It was hanging for 10 years. So you can imagine how boisterous that would be, right? For 10 years, they've been earning the same salary. For 10 years, it was a huge mess. And the reason is because of relationship management, right? Like I said, when you come into the union, when you join in an organization or your journey to the tables is as important as anything. And journey to the table is about relationship management. See, you have to understand that HR, especially managing people and managing a unionized environment, is not always black and white. There are a lot of grays. So a labor relations expert has to have the competencies and the capacity to navigate these paradoxes, this relationship with the union. They are human beings like you. But I can assure you, most union and most managers who are not really informed or well, empowered by their HR or by their culture, approach union as the enemy. Mm-hmm. And union is not the enemy. Union, in current day, they are your partner. In fact, they have the tendency or the capacity to make life easier for you, right? As long as you can walk through to, what we call integrative approach. Integrative approach is a win-win approach, right? It doesn't mean you can't say no to them. It doesn't mean we can't stop certain things. But the key question you want to ask is, how do you say no without damaging relationship? Mm-hmm. That's one of the key dynamics that makes an integrative and a relationship with the union excellent. So you must know, it doesn't have to be, you just must know how to navigate, how to manage, how to engage, how to make them feel like people.
Could you share maybe one practical tip that someone could just use that you've used to build that relationship?
So the one practical tip is building trust. Okay, so let me break it down to ability to listen to them. So for this union, one of my approach was to really, I had a general meeting with them, but I started building relationship with all the key stakeholders, right? Building trust, making them know that I am not against you. We're here for the same purpose. You're just on the other side. And Leke was talking about the dynamics of union. Why do organizations or employees you get unionized? It's because of three fundamental things. They want representation, right? They want to reduce management right. And of course, they also want to maintain their seniority and ensure that they are being represented. So when you're working with the union, what I did was work with them to let them know, hey, I am on your side. We're together. This particular issue, we want this person to perform optimally, or we want this issue to be resolved. How can we come to an agreement? So the tactic is sometimes don't seek to get all your way. Don't seek to win in all the situations. Sometimes come to the middle point, within the fine lines of what the CBA defined. And Leke has said, see how you can come to agreements that favors both parties, because it's about that question, what is the need for me? You can't take away that the union is protecting these people. You are protecting your people as well, because you need them to be optimal for business to perform. So what I did was really build relationship with them and build trust and let them know that I'm not your enemy. We are partners together in this journey to make everybody happy at the end of the day.
Nice.
For me, if I could add to this, because I think this is one of the most critical aspects of labor relations. Every other thing is on paper, every other thing is almost black and white. But the relationship management is what makes the whole of difference. And this is one thing I do when I have those conversations. One, I identify the most powerful person in that group. And it doesn't have to be the union president. It doesn't have to be the vice president. It might be just a member. That person drives a lot of the conversation. You can imagine one person driving conversation for 25,000 people.
Yeah.
I identify this person. I sit with them. I let them know where I'm coming from, what my background is, what is important to me, what my mandate is, right? And from there, I say, you know what? Let us have what I call robust conversations. Let us have very deep and solution-driven conversations without losing that relationship. And in my current role, I deal with one or two of such people, and I take them to coffee every month just to catch up, to make sure that that relationship we are building is ongoing. And the last thing I'll say is unions don't like to be ambushed. They don't like surprises. And the reason why they don't like that is not because they don't like you. They also have a mandate. The unions have a mandate to their members, because they can be sanctioned for not properly representing their members. So it's not wrong to let the union know what management is planning. As far as not super confidential, they feel very empowered. They feel very involved in that process, and that helps to build a relationship. It does work wonders when you do that.
Yeah, it's such an interesting position to be in. I like what Sheon just said in the chat. It's like you're trying to build that relationship, but at the same time, you're also trying to protect management. So you're like in a very complex position where you're holding two things and trying to balance it at the same time. So yeah, and I think this is one of those topics that are going to be really dealt in that 8-week program that is coming up in the new year. Sort of like looking at how do you build that relationship with the union. So we'll sort of like talk. I know Leke and Imole will give lots of case studies to help people really sort of build that relationship. So yeah, I'm just noticing we have 5 more minutes. So I'm gonna maybe we'll do one or two more, but just sort of give you, if you can quickly go through it. The third misconception is specializing in labor relations results in limited compensation compared to other HR specializations.
You can check Leke's accounts to verify that. I mean, that's a big misconception. It's a big no. In fact, the more you grow in your career, this is what I'm going to say from a broader perspective. The more you grow in this field, the more you either choose to generalize or specialize. But the research has shown that when you specialize, you make more money. right? And Canada is huge. Canada is huge on those laws. Canada is used on those guiding principles. Canada is used on, following all those processes. So individuals who has these competencies will definitely earn more, right? A gynecologist earn more than a GP, right? It's labor relations specialist. When I looked at the data, you earn between 12 to 19% more than the HR generalist, right? So definitely you earn more when you specialize. Labor relations, yes.
So my simple answer to that, thank you, Wale. My simple answer to that is I was faced with either going back to my primary constituency, which is law, practicing law in Canada and working in the LR and ER space because I have extensive HR experience. And I saw that it pays me, talking financially now, to stay within this field than to practice law. Because if I was practicing law, I'll be working almost 80 hours, 90 hours a week. And I'm working half of that time now, still making considerably competitive income compared to people who, or my friends who are practicing and working in Canada at the same time. So that's on the compensation side. But on, Imole mentioned something, specialization here puts you not only on the economic high ladder, but it also puts you on a strategic high ladder. You'll be sitting, if you work in labor relations, you always find yourself sitting with the critical decision makers in the organization, because there's hardly any major decision that would be considered with needing the input of the labor relations person before they can move ahead. Sometimes you have to even engage legal counsel to make such decisions. So it puts you in a very, I would say, very comfortable position within a whole lot of organizations, and the job security is quite there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Could you maybe share some professional development in labor relations for HR professionals? Anyone that is sort of wanting to go into this? What kind of development or programs can they explore?
I mean, how would I say, there are different developmental programs or initiatives you can. So for instance, I mean, I'm going to put it to you, this is one of the major reasons why we are doing this, to provide a very strategic education for people who want to pursue that. Besides that, there are different journals, there's labor and employment law in Canada journals, there's employment journal, there are case laws, which we are going to be looking into very, very deeply. There are case laws that, because the labor relations in Canada is a fluid thing, right? Past practice changes based on certain case laws and all of that. So it's a continuous field. But, I know there are a few schools that do some high level courses like we are going to talk about here. I mean, even our syllabus is designed using that framework and even optimizing it, you understand? So then, of course, maybe Leko will talk a bit about it, because Leke's law background speaks into this, but we dispelled this myth. You don't need a law background to work in labor relations. What is critical is you have the passion and the desire.
Right.
When you have a passion and desire for something, you keep investing in learning. I don't know how many courses I've invested in. The same with Leke, because you want to keep optimizing, you want to keep improving your knowledge and best practices in the field. So it's a continuum, but of course our course is a major one that really helps you bridge that gap, no matter the level that you are.
Okay, so we'll get into the program in a little bit. I can see questions are coming in. We'll leave 20 minutes at the end for questions, and please feel free to add all your questions here. So we'll sort of like go through each one and ask Imole and Leke to answer it. I'm going to just give us an opportunity to do one more misconception quickly before we sort of talk a little bit about the 8-week program. And the one that I think expertise in labor relations is only a 10 of, I think we've sort of answered that. We'll do the last one, which is labor relations expertise is only relevant or applicable in unionized or large organizations.
Let Leke start that, definitely.
No, I would say no. Labor relations skills is very, very relevant. In fact, for large organizations that don't have unions, their biggest fear is having union come into their space.
Yeah.
And I've sat at both sides of the table. I've sat with an individual who was responsible in making sure that Starbucks all over North America are not unionized. The level of skill and expertise that is required to function in that role is quite significantly high. So for organizations who don't have unions, a labor relations specialist working in that space is not managing the union, but managing the possibility of a union coming into that environment. So the skills that are required are quite different. And if you are a labor relations specialist in that role, you are needed, because you have to look at your organization, audit your organization, and make sure that your employee relations is perfect, is good. Because if your employee relations fails, what you're going to be dealing with down the line is labor relations, because the unionization process is very complicated. And also organizations can quickly fall on the other side of the law if they engage in practices that are not wholesome in the process of preventing the union from coming into their space. So for organizations who don't have unions, you still need those skills. And for organizations who does have unions, if you're working into an organization, maybe they're going through implementation of a collective agreement, or the agreement is up for negotiation and bargaining, the kind of work you'll be doing is very sophisticated, is very regulated, is very compliance driven. And at every step of the way, you need to leverage on your knowledge, you need to leverage on your experience, you need to leverage on that relationship we'll be talking about to actually make things happen. And one thing is also critical: the level of labor and employee relations competence of your managers also will determine your success. So, for example, when I go into an organization, one of the first things I do is to do an audit of the level of competency that the managers themselves do have and the knowledge they have about their collective agreement. If it's lacking, then training has to start first before we even go into anything, because you will need them when you are negotiating a new agreement or when you're implementing a new agreement. So there's a whole lot we'll unpack when we get to that 8 weeks program. And like I think Imole and Tommy have said, we'll do a lot of practical exercises that will help you gain this insight, whether you have the experience or not, whether you've worked in a unionized experience or not. When you can speak the language, when you're comfortable and you walk into interviews and they know you understand the fundamentals, right? Those transferable skills can help you quickly get a job in Canada if you're looking to transition your career to Canada. And that's very key. There's a lot we can say here, but we can't possibly cover everything. But I hope you found some of our insights quite useful.
Awesome, thank you. I see a comment here from Dixon: labor relations skills are needed for any employee to negotiate employment hurdles. Yeah, thanks for that comment. So Leke has sort of introduced the program. So this is all the misconceptions, and the idea is really to just give you an understanding of why labor relations is important. Before I hand over to Imole, I think it would be great, just because we don't have that much time, I would really love for you to maybe put in the chat one nugget that you got from this conversation here. Just sort of so that we know that, there's something you're taking away from just what has been said. So we'd really love for you to plug that in the chat, just one nugget. And while you're doing that, I'll hand over to Mole to sort of just give you an understanding of why, you need to take this 8-week program that we're talking about, because it will really help you navigate your success in labor relations. So I'm going to hand over to Imole to just take us through that right now.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you very much. So this is what we're really just going to do, just take us through, what our interface looks like. So Luminous Consulting is a registered educational provider. Tommy, you want to go in so that?
Sure, I'll do that right now.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so while she's trying to put that on, so what we're really doing is providing very practical education. We're bridging the gap between the theoretical dimensions and real life scenarios real competencies developed by professionals in the field. And what we've done is to tailor our syllabus to the best standard. So this is going to be it's starting on the 6th of January. So, less than about a week from now. And it's an advanced labor relations certificate course. So essentially, you have access to our LMS, which is going to give you a 1-year access. It's going to be flexible because fundamentally, you will have the ability to still do your work if you are working and attend our classes because they're really weekend classes. Now, we know that managing relationships is going to be very technical. It's not so easy. Jack Welch says, I'll pay anybody any amount that can manage people. And managing the union is another layer to it, right? So this is an 8 interactive intensive session. At the end of the course, you're going to get a CPD hours. Right now, we are finalizing our accreditation process with SHRM. So we're positioning to be a recertification organization. So this is one major reason why you should attend this, because you get the CPD hours and it speaks to your SHRM, to your CPHR, to any certification you have, shows that your continuous professional development is on point. And of course, you have priority interaction with the facilitators. I mean, we've negotiated CBAs. We've got, this year, my organization, we went on almost over 2 months strike. There's so much we're going to teach you in that process. And of course, you have access to solid materials, right? Real-time materials that we use every day. Then also you get a certification at the end of the course. At the end of the program, you have a badge that you can put on your LinkedIn, and then you get a certification, that shows. But at the end of the day, what really happens is that you get a deep understanding. At the end of this course, you have a deep understanding of the Canadian labor relations and its unique challenges. We're not generalistic in our approach. We're going to be talking about WestJet. We're going to be talking about the Port Authority, Coca-Cola. We're going to talk about big-time organizations that have dealt with certain issues and how they negotiated. We're going to be applying those case laws. We're going to be looking at the legal aspects of legal relations. It's a legal framework. It guides, right? So we're going to be looking at the legal dimensions. And then there's certain skills and competencies we're going to be teaching you in terms of managing conflict, communication. We're going to walk through all of that. Now, 2 very exciting things and very excited about this. Number one is the fact that you have opportunity to connect with other HR professionals, other pros in the industry, other people who are upcoming, who are in it, and you'll be able to interact with and then bring real life situation and scenario. You have that opportunity. But more importantly, for those who want to pivot, for those who want to join, who want to come into HR here, labor relations here, we're going to be having a career transition session where we'll give you all the tools, the strategy, where we'll assure you that within the next 6 weeks, if you stick at it, after our program, you're very, very likely to get a job in labor relations because it's about speaking the language. Now, let's look at the cost implication. Don't go down to me. Just the cost implication. Now, because at a very structured form, this is the first time we're doing this, but Leke does this regular. I do this. There are people who have gotten labor relations job that I've coached, I've tutored. This is what we do. But we're keeping this very affordable right now. The value is just $700. If early bird, so we have the early bird package, which takes 20% off. So if you register between now and 3rd of January, you get to pay $560, right? And if you choose to, okay, this is not here, but this is the package. If you register within the next 24 hours, what we've done is to do a take another 20% off. That'll be $500. So if you register between now and tomorrow, you pay just $500. Now, a lot of people have reached out. They want installments. We've kind of made it easy. So we've put a 2-time payment installment plan, 3-time payment installment plan for you so that you can easily adapt. You can easily put that in place and of course, get that value. Now, if you look at the investments, the technological investments, all the investment we are putting into this, I can assure you, we're not doing this for money at this time, right? We're doing this to get value for people. We're doing this to bridge the gap. Days are coming that our dynamics, business dynamics will change, right? But for now, we just want you to get that first first food bearer of this, and and then be competitive in the market. Canada is competitive. You must be rightly positioned, and that's why we're doing this for you. I think that's about it. If you want to
just, we could just quickly, like, maybe,
course outline, beautiful.
course outline quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll quickly run through the course outline. We're going to be going into the introduction of Canadian labor relations, take you through an historical journey to where we are. Understanding collective bargaining. Now, I've sat at the table several times. Lika, I've sat at the tables more times. How do you win? How do you win? How do you win? How do you get your CBA in place? We're going to be teaching you all the strategies. Then, union organizing and certification. I believe that for some people, this is what will enable them get their next job. Like Lika said, organizations don't want to get their employees certified. How do you protect that? That's for those who are working in a non-unionized environment. So, and of course, for those who are working in a unionized environment, we're going to teach you all the dynamics, grievance handling and arbitration. In last year, from a data point, I was able to cut down our grievances by 60% at Coca-Cola Canada. That fact is that I was able to cut it down. How did we do it? We're going to be teaching you some of those strategies. Because the truth is, it's about managing relationships. It's about training. Leke mentioned that. When you empower your frontline supervisors and managers, it's not everything that will become wahala. Pardon my grammar. You can manage issues. When they listen, when they help them navigate it, it's easier. So we're going to be teaching you that. Then LR practices. LR practices in Canada, and of course, it will help you globally. We'll walk through that. Then employee engagements in unionized environments. Then labor relations and legal compliance. This is an intricate, delicate part. We'll deep dive into that and walk you through. And then, of course, the role of an HR business partner in labor relations. You might be an HR advisor right now, an HR generalist, an HR business partner. Our role is tripartite. It's very interesting. We'll delve into that. And of course, the major reason why you should attend this course.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll just say one thing quickly.
Yeah.
The cost of this is nothing compared to the value that you'll be getting. I, for one, have invested significantly into my development to this stage, and what you'll be getting from us is almost equal, if not a better value than we got through experience. So if you can make this, it will really, really be beneficial. You'll be surprised at how much your lingua will change after going through this program, and those interviews that are not kind of clicking will suddenly become, a piece of cake.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just sort of like rushing us through because I'm just realizing we only have 10 more minutes.
And so much questions.
So many questions. I'm seeing so many questions coming in. Maybe we could just quickly answer, or Jennifer, could you answer some of the questions related to the courses, such as what hours are the classes scheduled for? Maybe you could just sort of respond to that so that we can go back to the earlier questions we had in relation to the misconceptions and the conversation we had. So we'll get someone from our team to answer the questions related to the courses. And then I'll go back to those. There were 3 questions that were asked, and either one of you can answer this question. The first one, let me go back to the slide, sorry, and take us away from here. We've talked about payments, so questions. The first question was, does it make sense to keep learning and specializing while trying to transition to HR in Canada? It is very difficult to break into the field here. The lack of Canadian experience is a problem.
Okay, I'd like to quickly answer that question. The lack of Canadian experience is a problem, but I tell people that I coach, it's not so much of the problem, but so much of how you navigate it. The moment they invite you for an interview, they've seen it on your resume that you don't have those Canadian experience, yet they're willing to listen to you. So it's about the narrative. It's about the language. In fact, I teach people in my personal coaching that it's about telling the stories. In fact, part of the key strategy I'm dropping here for free and you learn more is about being proactive about it. The Canadian man or Canadian woman wants to know what are the steps and actions you're taking to bridge the gap. You understand? So I tell people there are 2 fundamental different things in Canada about Canada. Everything, every competence is global, right? How you do it right in Nigeria, in Sudan, in Namibia is the same thing. In America is global. But what is different? What is different is culture and context. Culture and context. So this program empowers you to understand the culture, the context, and able to speak the language. So when you get into that interview, the way you're talking, they're like, gosh, you already know what to do to hit the ground running. So yes, it might be difficult, but people are getting it. I got my first job in the unionized environment without a union experience here in Canada, because I was able to make those investments and speak the language. So it's very possible. It's difficult, but when you do our program, you bridge the gap already.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Like, is there anything you want to add to that?
You're on mute, sir.
All right. Imole, I think you've said it all. You know, speaking the language for me is key. And you cannot speak the language until you understand the language through kind of coaching or training. It's difficult, but it's very doable.
Okay. Awesome. The second question here is, can you speak to what work-life balance is like in an LR role? When starting out, there may be a lot of travel involved and being able to respond to issues over the clock depending on the industry. So work-life balance.
Let me respond to this.
Yeah.
Even when I work, because I've worked within a union before, a union setting, the work-life balance compared to the other specializations in HR is different. I think it ebbs and flows. If you are working towards bargaining, for example, you are 24 hours on the call, right? And then when you are in the management phase of things, now you have more control. How your managers are trained, how you are able to kind of schedule your own work will now matter. The ability to manage yourself is also very, very important here, because you have to understand your job. You have to understand when the high pressure is coming and plan towards it. And if you work in an organization that is very pro work-life balance, you can talk to your manager and work around your team and make things happen. So you don't have to be on the road. It all depends on the context. It all depends on the particular opportunity. I've had jobs where I traveled 50% of the time, and I've had jobs where over 3 years I didn't have to get on a plane. So it all depends on the particular opportunity you're working with. But self-management here is very, very key, and understanding what is at stake within that organization.
Mm. Nice.
I don't have anything so hard.
He said no.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I like this question. The third one here says, can you cover some ways you've managed union/management relationships that are already SAR?
Already saw. Okay, the experience I mentioned, it was somewhere in northern BC. It was 10 years, there was no deal. Everybody was practically angry. They feel the company did not understand them or do not care, but that's really not the case. So in managing it is really about relationship management. When I joined, that was the key mandate to give me. The first thing I did was I flew down to the location and I started relationship building, right? And you can't build relationship if they don't feel listened to, if they don't feel you have their interest at heart. So you want to really understand. Of course, you must understand the CBA. You must identify all the gaps there already. You must look at all the technical dimensions. You must look at the data. You must look at why they have these concerns, why they refuse to sign it the 2 times they've gone to the table, and all of that. But when you go to meet them, you know, they know you're coming representing management, but you want to buy their trust. You want to gain their trust. You want to feel you want them to feel that they're being listened to. Then you want to shift the needle, right? You can't come with the same messaging they've been coming with that didn't get you a deal and expect you to get a deal. So there has to be compromise. There has to be win-win. There has to be, hey, okay, this is my band. This is the budget. This is the bandwidth. How can we play? Then you play the game back and forth in good faith, right? In good faith. That is very critical. So it's building the trust and compromising. Maybe the right word is not compromise, but truly compromising on certain grounds, shifting grounds, right? Ensuring clarity, ensuring position is clear, and making them know that you truly care about them. But of course, you have to do your wage analysis, competitive analysis to ensure that you are bringing data that makes sense to them. Because at the end of the day, they're thinking about what is in it for me. That's what everybody's thinking about. And you want to speak that language in building that trust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like a journey. It's not something that will happen overnight.
No. When you have a cankerous relationship with someone, you don't just come and speak English and think it goes away. It's a journey, yeah. You just must have the skills to journey that path.
Nice.
And Imole, if I may add to that,
Yes.
one of the very difficult aspects of I'll say one of the I won't use the word difficult, interesting part of this work is that in some situations, you might have to pull the hard work. For example, I've had to recommend, and this is your role as a labor relations person, you might have to recommend people to move out of specific geographical locations just because the relationship is broken down irretrievably, or that particular individuals have to be let go in the organization to make things work. So your ability to get to that point, to analyze and do that audit to come to that decision is also something that the organization is waiting for you as a labor relations person to provide that value. You know, in those situations, it can get very difficult, but in managing the relationship that has gone sour, sometimes you might have to move players around or remove an actual player entirely from the scene.
Yes.
to before the healing process starts. So, but it all depends on the context. You know, every organization evolves differently. And like I said, sometimes you have to pull that hard one. It can be tough, but it's the reality in that in some of those contexts.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you both for answering those questions. We just have 3 more minutes. I'm noticing that we're answering some of the questions here. There are 1 or 2 questions that we have yet to answer. A lot of the information regarding the course is in the link that's been shared by Jennifer. So please feel free to click on that link for some of those questions here. There's 1 question here that maybe Mole can answer. How many CPD hours is the Advanced Labor Relations course?
Okay, so for now we're projecting 5. Now, because we're still in talks with the body, they look at it's weighted on a point system, and they say our syllabus is very robust. So right now it's about 5, and it may be more.
Okay.
It may be more, yes. But they validated our syllabus, said it's robust, so it might go higher.
Okay.
Somebody also asked about the timing. It's weekends.
Yes, hours.
It's definitely weekends. It's most likely it's going to be mornings so that people in other countries who have a different time zone can manage it. But from the earliest points in Canada, it's going to be in the morning session. People, for instance, in Nigeria, we've had some people register from countries like Nigeria. It's going to be evening for them, right? So
How many hours are the classes scheduled for?
For each of the class, yeah. So it's each of the sessions is 2 hours.
2 hours. Okay.
Yes. However, subject to our facilitators, right? There might be a session that is extended. Now, we mentioned flexibility. We are dealing with professionals. We'll have specific schedules, but there are times that we might choose to collapse it to be 4 hours instead of 2 hours. It's 4 hours, and when we can cover more ground.
Okay.
Yes. But it's an 8 comprehensive session class, 8 comprehensive session.
Okay.
Which is different from the job search strategy session as well.
Okay. So 8 comprehensive classes, 2 hours each session,
Yes.
early in the morning to be able to capture those in Nigeria.
Yes. Sorry, somebody asked the question. If you don't mind, let me answer. Would there be coursework? Yes, you have an LMS. There'll be case studies, so there'll be assignments to go and review. But in your LMS system, yours questions and answers, right? You have when you sign in, by the time you start to go live, you will have questions and answers where you can practice, where you can go and answer this question, and it will show you how well you're doing, how far you're going to help yourself in the journey.
And LMS is learning management.
Management system, yes, we've made investments into that.
Awesome. So we're at 10 o'clock. I am so thankful to both of you for being here and sharing so much of your knowledge. And you know what? I hope this has given you a bit of a snippet of what you should expect in the 8-week program. And yeah, so thank you all so much, all the participants, for being here, for asking questions, for the nuggets that you've shared. And yeah, thank you all so much, and hope you have a wonderful day and evening. And happy to have hosted this session with Leke and Imole.